So this is how the BVM comes packaged. It comes actually in a wrap that we make here at Eastwood, and it has a bag within a bag. So tear through the outer packaging itself, and then you'll find inside that there's a drawstring bag that contains all of the pieces. It's good to use that drawstring bag as sort of a trash bag. When you run a code, you can put all of your stuff into it so you're not making a big mess on the house. So what you'll have is you have the tubing, the reservoir. That's a HEPA filter I'm holding right there. We won't be using that really at any point, so you can discard that. And then the instructions if you need to browse those. So take the mask and set it down, and then when you go to expand it, just give it a good tug, and that will pull it out to the correct size. Attach it to oxygen and set it to at least 15 liters. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to adjust the PEEP valve, and I want that to be at a 10. So screw that spring down to tension the spring so that the 10 is just obscured, and that's going to give you a PEEP of 10. And then the last thing that you'll see here is there's a little pull tab. And that pull tab is going to activate the timing light, which is going to tell you when you need to squeeze the bag to ventilate for the patient. So squeeze when the light's on and don't squeeze when the light is off. The PEEP valve on this device is probably the single most important piece of the BVM. Inside your lungs, there is an incredibly huge surface area. It's something like the area of an entire tennis court if you were to stretch a lung out in a normal adult. But in a patient who isn't conscious or breathing, the lungs collapse on themselves and all of that surface area is gone. So there's no surface area for ventilation and oxygen exchange to take place. And when you're conscious and you're breathing, your upper airway structures and your glottis help keep a residual pressure in your lung, and that keeps the alveoli from collapsing on themselves. But in the patient that's apneic, they can't do that, and their alveoli collapse, and they actually stick together. And the more often this collapse and uncollapse happens, the harder it becomes to unstick them. And it's called atelectasis when they collapse, and the damage caused by the sticking and unsticking is called atelectical trauma. So we have to create this residual pressure in patients that aren't breathing, and that's what the PEEP valve does. There's a video that's going to play next that shows some cadaver lungs, and it demonstrates what it looks like with and without PEEP. And the differences are dramatic, and they're really easy to see.
You see how the lung collapsed? So we're not really recruiting hardly any alveoli. Air is going in and going out.
Okay.
How fast he's squeezing that bag. All right, now we're going to add PEEP to this. Okay, PEEP supply. Now you can absolutely see the alveoli being recruited by the hundreds of thousands, which is why the lungs are staying.
So they stay inflated much
aerated.
longer. And you can't overventilate this patient?
You can. You certainly can. So you adjust your PEEP anywhere from 5 to 20. 20 is the max that it would do, and you just watch the patient. You're driving for an O2 sat of around 94. It doesn't even need to be at 100%. And you adjust your PEEP accordingly. The only way you can increase the FiO2 when they're already on 100% O2, the only way to increase that number is through PEEP. Not by breathing faster. That's going to cause more intrathoracic pressure, decreasing the cardiac output, decreasing the SpO2, causing you to bag faster, and then you just get into this vicious cycle of bagging death.
What's your current PEEP setting?
So our current PEEP setting on this one right now is 20 millimeters of mercury. We can back it back down. Okay, this is 10. Go ahead and drag. So this is 10 of PEEP. Still, you can see it's recruiting alveoli. This is 15. This is 5 of PEEP right here. So you can see that's our physiologic norm. That's almost like not having the PEEP valve on at all. So that's 5. You can just cruise this up to 10. And now we'll get more functional reserve volume. We got more tidal volume now going on. We're recruiting tens of thousands of alveoli. There's 15. We're starting to just get into that bagging nose, and then there's 20. And you can see the difference when flight crews bring people, when we put people on our ventilator on PEEP, and then if you go to ventilate the patient with the BVM, you don't have a PEEP valve on, watch what happens to your lungs. So let's say the crew doesn't know what they're doing, or the ventilator's alarming, or worse, you get them in the hospital, RT's there bagging them. Watch what happens to my lungs when I take away that PEEP and they just go straight BVMing. Look what happens. We lose all our pressure.
Oh, and then some, yeah,
So-
like you were like in the negative.
Yes, so it clinically doesn't make sense for anybody on a ventilator of 6 to 10 to 20 a PEEP. Oh, I don't know what's going on, the ventilator's alarming, pulling them off and BVMing them without the PEEP valve
Yeah, put it on
on.
there.
They
Yep.
clinically cannot get better. People squeeze faster, but that's horrible.
I'll go through in this video the assembly and the use of the BVM. We're going to start with our patient, and we're going to begin with an appropriately sized oral airway. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that in here in the video. And you'll notice on the left, I've taken that blue corrugated tubing and get that out of the neb kit. I like to put this on between the mask and the actual bag itself. So one end goes onto the bag, and then stick the other hard plastic end into the mask. So the first thing that you're going to see me do is I'm going to demonstrate how you get a mask seal with 2-person bag mask ventilation. So the way I'm holding my hands here, that would be one person doing that and then the other person squeezing the BVM. But since there's just one of me in this video, I don't have any options, and I'm going to have to show you one-handed bag mask ventilation. So I've pulled that little tab out, which that tab is what activates the red LED, and you'll see when it lights up, that's when it's telling you to squeeze at 10 breaths a minute. So go ahead and give a nice gentle squeeze every time you see the light, and you want to watch that gauge. That gauge is a manometer, and it actually tells you the peak airway pressure. Now I have to squeeze kind of hard in this video for you to see it move, and an actual person, do not squeeze this hard. I don't have an actual person that I can use a bag mask on, so we're kind of stuck with this. But the goal is to keep your ventilations in the green zone at all times. So keep your rate down and keep the squeezing to a minimum.